Beltone Hearing Aid Center presents The Drive.
Ready?
The Drive.
Elmore deep, left side three is good! From 30 feet, John Elmore!
The Drive with Paul Swann.
Welcome into the Friday, November 9th edition. Your Drive begins now on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. High school football Friday night. Once again, we got playoff action to talk about. We're going to hear from Matt Perry, tell us a little bit about Spring Valley a little bit later on in the program. Also, we're going to hear from Woody Woodrum, Huntington High tonight. You can listen to that game right here on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. And then we'll have Jason Toy to tell us about the Cabell Midland Huntington High game. And you can listen to that game on 97.9 The River. Yeah, we're basically taking over the airwaves tonight. We've got all the high school action for you. So looking forward to it tonight. We'll talk to those guys a little bit later on, get their thoughts on the upcoming matchup between Huntington and Spring Valley and Cabell Midland and all of that. All I know is Huntington High has an opportunity tonight to start some redemption. They sort of faded into the playoffs, not the way they wanted to get in. They got in, so reset the records. Everybody's undefeated. Everybody is winless at the same time. So what happens tonight will be important. Huntington High knows this. Cabell Midland knows this as well. So we're going to have that for you. It's all coming up tonight right here on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. Now, I'm keeping an eye on it right now. Kentucky and Marshall, Conference USA semifinals, men's soccer. Right now, the Thundering Herd trailing 2-0. Hopefully the Thundering Herd can come back, but this was going to be a tough one. I thought Marshall could compete, and I still think they can. Plenty of game to be played here, but the Thundering Herd hoping to advance to the championship game, but they got to get past the biggest hurdle in Conference USA right now, and that's Kentucky. But still, Marshall soccer program is getting to the point now where you're competing, you're making it to the semifinals, you are on the verge of possibly winning a conference championship in men's soccer. And so I look for this game not to necessarily be the end for the squad, but we'll keep an eye on it for you tonight, and that's going on right now. It's on ESPN Plus, so if you've got your Plus subscription, you can possibly keep an eye on that. If you are out, you've got your cell phone handy, you can peek in on it, and we'll keep you updated as well on that one. They'll probably not be done by the time we're done with the show. So we've got that coming up as well. Tomorrow starts a busy weekend. We've got high school football tonight, but we've got Marshall football tomorrow. Thundering Herd, Charlotte 49ers going to be on the stage tomorrow on the West Lot. 9:30 no, 10:30 no. Thankfully, 11:30. 11:30. It's going to be a little chilly out there. I know there's some concern what the crowd's going to look like tomorrow. This is an important game. Marshall, Charlotte. Weather, of course, is going to be an issue. This game being televised. Again, if you got ESPN Plus, you can watch this. So there's a way to watch this without going to the game. And I don't know how much the weather's going to play into this. I don't know how much of the fact that the Thundering Herd didn't look good against Southern Miss, that these guys are playing for pride right now, hoping that the numbers in Conference USA keep them in the hunt for a championship, with Middle maybe faltering somewhere and maybe FIU dropping one somewhere to keep the Herd's hopes alive. Thundering Herd, if Middle drops one before UAB, I don't see that happening. There's a way, mathematically. It's not over yet. But still, I'm not saying it's done, but it's close. It really is. And then, there's still some talk that maybe Marshall's going to try to add a 12th game. And until I hear something official, it's just talk. Nothing is necessarily locked in stone because of the fact that Marshall couldn't really open that date up until they knew for sure that they'd be out of the East Division Championship. And technically, they're kind of still there right now. So you can't go and schedule a game with an outside shot knowing that, we're still in this. If you're Marshall, we're still in this hunt. And tomorrow's going to be pretty emotional as well. I know there's going to be some former players. Marshall's not released a list to us, so we don't know I mean, we kind of know from talking to some people, but we don't know the full attending list. But there's going to be some former players there, as well as this is the game that Marshall uses to remember, honor the victims of the 1970 plane crash, and that's going to be a big factor for this tomorrow. And they're going to have the helmets with the stickers with the jersey numbers of individual players. That's always a nice touch. Also, you're going to have the 75. You're going to have the old school logo on this side, which I'm telling you right now, I know that the Marshall block M's the M, but boy, I wish Marshall could go back to those logos. I like that old Buffalo with that MU. I like that a lot. I'd like to see more of it. I don't know. Maybe you incorporate the new M in that. I don't know how that would look, but I like the old look of that. Just on a totally different subject. And, of course, the kids get to wear their special uniforms. And if you were listening to Inside Herd Athletics with Marshall University Athletic Director Mike Hamrick yesterday, he talked about it. Hey, you win a championship, I'll give you guys some black uniforms. You got to, however, understand we're not going to pull those out unless it's this game. So you get to wear them. You get to wear them for this. I know programs like Marshall can't invest the time, energy, and resources into uniform changes the way, say, Oregon could or does. But that kind of stuff is really meaningful to kids. They like different uniforms. They like the special uniforms. I know Marshall has kind of maintained, even though they've swapped out a little bit, they've kind of maintained such a traditional-ish type of uniform and helmet. And I get that completely. But at the same time, wouldn't it be cool? See some redesigns on that helmet a little bit. A little redesign on that uniform. Something a little bit more flashy, but make sure the numbers we can read. That's my only ask. Make sure we can read the numbers. So we got a lot to get into. We're going to do that when we come back from break. We'll talk first about Spring Valley. Matt Perry is going to join us on the program. Also, Woody Woodrum will join us. And if Woody allows it and we have time, we'll hear from Jason Toy. That's all on Woody Woodrum. That's Woody Woodrum's fault that we don't have time usually for Jason Toy. I'm going to pit those two against each other since they're going to be in the same orbit here real soon. So we'll talk to those guys, but Matt's going to join us first in a few moments. We'll talk about Spring Valley. I think it's a foregone conclusion in a lot of people's mind that Spring Valley is going to win easily over Spring Mills. Spring Mills 5-5, Spring Valley 10-0. We'll get Matt's take on this when we continue with this edition of The Drive presented by Beltone Hearing Aid Center on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Buckle up. Paul Swann has the wheel on The Drive, ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Welcome back to the Friday edition of The Drive presented by Beltone Hearing Aid Center on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. Coming up in a short bit, we're going to hear from Woody Woodrum and Jason Toy. They'll preview Huntington High and Cabell Midland. It's a game we're going to have here on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. Also, we'll have that on 97.9 The River, and you can watch that tonight. And that's our video game of the week, and you can go to our website, wrvc.com, or our Facebook page to watch the live video stream. So coming up tonight, 7:30 is going to be kick time. You can listen to it on 92.7 and 98.5 The Planet. It'll be Spring Mills making the trek down to Spring Valley. Spring Valley undefeated, hoping to remain that way at the very end and win a state championship. And it all begins tonight. And Matt Perry is going to be on the call, and he joins us now on the program. And I don't think a lot of people are giving Spring Mills much credit in this. They got in the playoffs. They're 5-5. But a lot of people think that Spring Valley is just going to roll this team. What's really going to happen tonight?
Spring Valley is obviously the favorite. Everything plays into Spring Valley's hands. Spring Mills has the longest trip of any class, or single A, double A, or triple A, of anybody in the playoffs. 6.5-hour drive from Martinsburg down here to Wayne County. So definitely the odds are stacked against the Cardinals. But, the unknown. Spring Valley knows very little about Spring Mills other than what they've seen, obviously, on film. Spring Mills had to win last week in a 7-0 slugfest against Hedgesville just to get here. So Spring Valley is definitely has a target on their back, and Spring Mills is going to give them everything they've got, I'm sure.
What do we know other than they fought hard to get into the playoffs? So I know they're just happy to be here, but they still want to win. So what do we know about this squad other than the fact that they fight and they've got heart?
Yeah, they got hard. Low score. They seem to be a defensive team. I was looking over their scores over the year, and they won 7-0 last week to get here. So they had to pitch the shutout. They try to play some ball control defensive ball. They have the unfortunate aspect of being in the Eastern Panhandle. So early in the season, they were a sacrificial lamb to the Bulldogs of Martinsburg. They lost to a couple of teams from Maryland, like Hagerstown. So they're playing some schools that are probably pulling from more areas than Spring Mills does because they're a recently new school. They were actually some of the kids that used to go to Martinsburg now go to Spring Mills because they're a recently consolidated school where they kind of took parts of multiple schools over there in Berkeley County.
For Spring Valley, how focused is this team knowing that, all right, there's a lot of pressure. Not now you're in, but there's a lot of pressure to get back to the championship game. And let's be honest, the good news is for teams on this side of the bracket, they don't have to make that long trek up the road. You know what I'm talking about with Martinsburg.
Yeah, exactly.
But the good news here is the trick is to get to this point in the season where you're at home until the championship game. Spring Valley's done that, but now how do you stay focused? Because everybody's coming to you, right? Everybody's coming to you.
Everybody, yeah. Other than Martinsburg, Spring Valley is the target. I mean, in this part of the state and on their side of the bracket, everybody knows there are no secrets. The last 2 years, maybe you could say, oh, Spring Valley was kind of a surprise. They're not anymore. They're 10-0. They've got a huge target on their back. They play if they take care of business tonight, they're going to be playing one of their local rivals next week. Guaranteed. They either play Midland or they play Huntington. Then they have to play, if everything plays out, they got Capital in the semifinals. Everything points to another team getting another shot at Spring Valley. They are the big dog. They have everybody gunning for them. So it's a new aspect for these kids. They're not used to being the top dog. They're not used to the other teams, gunning for them on a weekly basis. They handled it all year, their first undefeated season in school history. But now we're going to see how they handle the pressure of the playoffs.
You're just another team on the Huntington High Revenge Tour, right?
So be it.
Have you seen the way the schedule lines up? I'm not saying that Huntington and Spring Valley are, I'm not going to predict that. I'm not going there yet. But Huntington High has the opportunity to play Cabell Midland again tonight, win that game.
Yep.
Then they've got an opportunity to play Spring Valley, win that game. They can play Capital, win that game, and then in 3 consecutive weeks, they will have avenged their 3 losses.
And that's crazy. It really is when you bring it up that way. And I was looking at that earlier this week. And, like I said, Spring Valley is the target. And so Huntington, a team like Huntington, has nothing to lose at that point because they're smarting from last week. I would come away from that game as a Huntington follower saying, man, Spring Valley really didn't play that well. Huntington had many opportunities to win that game last week. It just didn't happen for them. Spring Valley did not put Huntington away when they should have and let Huntington stick around. So Huntington would have a lot of momentum and a lot of things to build off of next week if that game happens.
How is this team this week prepare themselves to avoid the letdown? Because you mentioned earlier Spring Mills, sorry. You don't know much about them. And you feel pretty good about your team, and good teams have bad days. Great teams don't. Yeah. Good teams have bad days. So what has gone into this week to try to make sure that these kids realize, all right, that 10-0 means nothing right now?
Well, first, before I even get there, I do want to take a moment. I'm very happy to report. I know people have been following us on the radio. The young freshman for Spring Valley, Wade Smith, got his new heart yesterday. And so the team has been rallying around that young man, and he is doing great off of the ventilator. So his heart transplant came through. It was a very scary thing that we've been following all year. So that has been a very focal point for this team all week and all season, really, rallying around that young freshman on the team. Now, in regards to just football X's and O's, Spring Valley is going to play their game. Very simply, Coach Dingus, he knows what he wants to accomplish, and it's muddy. It's awful out here. I'm standing here at the top of the stadium. It's cold. There is huge mud puddles in the end zone and throughout the field. This plays directly into Spring Valley's ground and pound game. And they're just going to control the ball, and if they're going to take care of business, it's going to be with the three-headed duo of Howard, Chafin, and Malashevitz on the ground.
Matt Perry's joining us on the program, and coming up tonight, we have got Spring Valley taking on Spring Mills, and this is going to be on 92.7 and 98.5 The Planet. I'm looking forward to this one. This will be a fun one. We'll keep an eye on this one. The winner of Huntington High and Cabell Midland gets the winner of this one. So either Spring Mills has got a long trip ahead of them next week, or we're going to see you over at the Wolves Den here in one short week. Either way.
Yeah, I'm very excited for the playoff season. It's been a fun ride. I gush often on the air about how cool it's been to do this year, and to be with Kindred Communications, and to have the opportunity to where it will be another showdown next week. I hope they take care of business tonight. I'm being selfish. I want to see a big showdown next week.
Well, if that's the case, we'll have you back on the radio. If not, I'll have the Spring Mills broadcast crew on. So get their number for me, will you?
I will, and thank you for having me all season if this happens to be the last time.
We'll see you next week. Don't worry about that. We'll talk to you next week. I'll call
great.
this one now. No disrespect to Spring Mills, but I know Spring Valley's way too good, and I'm looking forward to seeing them next week as well as either Huntington or Cabell Midland. But we'll talk to you next week, and we'll keep an eye on the game. It's tonight on our sister station, 92.7 and 98.5 The Planet. Thanks, buddy. Talk to you soon.
Have a great one.
When we come back from break, we'll hear from Woody Woodrum. You know what? We're going to get Jason Toy on this show tonight as well. Even though Huntington High, Cabell Midland are playing each other, even though they'll be talking about the same game, we're going to get Jason Toy on this program tonight. He has been Matt Damon more times than I can count. Some of that is his own fault, but we will get him on the program sometime tonight. But first, Woody Woodrum will join us next on this edition of The Drive, presented by Beltone Hearing Aid Center.
You're listening to The Drive with Paul Swann, presented by Beltone Hearing Aid Center on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
We continue on this Friday. It's a high school football Friday. The playoffs have begun in West Virginia, and our focus tonight is on Huntington High and Cabell Midland. That game tonight right here on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. It's also on 97.9 The River. Chris Tatum and Woody Woodrum are going to have the call the Huntington side of this game tonight, and we'll have that game for you right here. And Woody Woodrum joins us now on the program. Now, I promised Jason Toy that we would leave him some time to be on the show tonight, Woody. So I'm holding you to that. We got to make time for him, just a little.
Well, it's Cabell Midland versus Huntington. We shouldn't have to say a lot. I mean, these two teams.
Hey, I've got a show to do. We've got 25
they
minutes, man. I got 25 minutes to fill. You're going to have to say more than.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to say more.
They've always done a good job. They're 2-0 against Midland in the postseason, which is kind of hard to believe. In 2014, they lost the regular season game by 5 at Midland, went back to Midland, and then won 28-21. That was a really surprising victory. But a couple of weeks ago when they played, I honestly, Huntington couldn't have played worse if they tried. And at times they weren't trying at all. So, Billy Seals came out of that game madder than a wet hornet and just couldn't believe the way the team had laid down after, it was a tough loss to Capital. They got out of the gate a little slow, but it was 30-22. It certainly wasn't embarrassing. And then Midland serves up a missed snap on a punt, and they get the ball at the 10, and a few plays later they're into the end zone, and they've got a 7-0 lead. But Ivan Vaughn really got after Huntington in the last game, 28 carries, 219 yards, and as a team, 415 yards to 189 for Huntington. So they didn't play very well defensively, they didn't play very well offensively, didn't do a great job on special teams, and it was kind of an ugly game. But, they've had a great week of practice, according to Coach Seals. Darnell Wright got another award. He announced Thursday in front of the school in an assembly that he'll be playing in the Under Armour High School Senior Bowl game, and that'll come up, late December, early January when he'll play in that, and then it'll be about time for him to pick a college. And, of course, he told us a couple weeks ago on a pregame show he was going to wait till the day of signing day, do the whole hat thing and all that. So there are a lot of people out there being very, very tense. But, the funny thing is I've seen one or two big schools come in here when I'm by on Thursday, but you wouldn't believe how many, the smaller schools like the Pikevilles and the West Virginia States and schools along Division II or 1AA or FCS, as they say now, that are in here, because there's a lot of good players on this Huntington team outside of just Darnell Wright. And, one of the big things tonight could be a spark, Paul, because Ty Wilcoxon got his cast off on Monday. He's been working out, and he is definitely a game-time decision, as they like to say. But I'm hearing if they could get him in 8 to 10 snaps, they're going to try to do that and see how it goes. Doctors have given him clearance to do this, and the trainers. So, they're not going to do anything to injure him further, is what they're sure of. And it was a clean break, a small bone in a tibia, and it seems to have healed pretty well. So he's about on schedule. I heard all season that he might be back for the playoffs, and he may well be back for tonight.
And if you're going to go back tonight, this is the perfect game to do it, because Huntington High and Cabell Midland, two rivals, they like to get after each other. It's a clean series, but it's still very intense, a little chippy at times. So anything that can spur on the Highlanders will help a little bit. But focus-wise, and we've joked about this in the office, and I did earlier as well with the voice of the Spring Valley Timberwolves, that this is the beginning of the Huntington High Revenge Tour. This could be it, or the road to redemption, because you can beat Cabell Midland, get that loss avenged. You could beat possibly Spring Valley, get that loss avenged. You could possibly face Capital, get that loss avenged, and then you're playing for a championship.
Yeah, this would be the only one here, unless some gigantic upsets would happen tonight, and I really don't expect that. I think Spring Valley, like you, wins easily tonight against Spring Mills, and I think, as far as Morgantown's good, but I don't think they've got enough for Capital tonight. John Marshall might try Musselman. Musselman's been good in every game except the 60 or so nothing loss to Martinsburg. So, and then, Wheeling Park won a championship a few years back. They get the surprisingly much better Parkersburg team. I think that's a team to keep an eye on in the playoffs. Parkersburg South is taking on Hedgesville, and Greenbrier East takes on the surprising Ripley Vikings. What a job this year being done up there. Eddie Smolder gets them in the playoffs, his first year out of the MSAC, 9-1 mark, but only ranked at number 5 because some of those teams were a little lower rated that they played this year, but nonetheless, they won 9 of 10 and they're number 5 seed. So, it seems to be working pretty well for them.
Woody Woodrum's joining us a little bit later on. Chris Tatum's going to join him, and we'll have a call of Huntington High and Cabell Midland. You can watch it right here on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930's Facebook page, or listen to it on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. We got you covered either way. So we've got the video stream tonight. Of course, we got the radio side of things. If you want to hear the Huntington side of everything, turn your radio on or listen to the stream of the game as well. So we'll have everyone covered. And coming up here shortly, Jason Toy's going to break down the Cabell Midland side of this. It's just funny how these playoffs work. Huntington High not having to go far in the playoffs if they have to go on the road. Spring Valley's not that far of a road trip if they win. Capital, really not that far of a road trip. So they're on the good side of the bracket this year.
No, that's the thing is, if you get on the side with Martinsburg and you're like, oh, my goodness, how many trips will we have to make? And I think, it's legit. It's a long, hard trip. I mean, there's a couple of those tonight that are already coming to bear. And, we talked about Musselman's at home, but, boy, Hedgesville's got to go to Parkersburg South. That is not a short trip at all. Musselman is at home, but Spring Mills to Spring Valley is a very long trip, and then I believe Weir goes to Poca, so that's the northern panhandle, and down. And then Wayne's playing Kaiser, who is over in the eastern panhandle, so Wayne has a long trip over there tonight. And there was one more of those here somewhere. But, the eastern part of the state and the panhandle has gotten a number of good teams going over there, and it makes a long trip between mostly the MSAC and AAA in this area and the eastern panhandle. So I like the setup, though. I think the 1 versus 16, 2 versus 15, all that is a really good system, and I think we take the top 16. There's only 29 teams in AAA. That probably needs, I think, it's 2 years, and they'll rebalance the league. And you watch, I think they're going to drop that line a little bit. Maybe Logan, Winfield, Bridgeport, teams like that may make the jump back into AAA, although they've all been very successful playing in AA.
Woody Woodrum joins us, and he'll be back with us later on for the broadcast itself. Huntington High taking on Cabell Midland. It's the opening round of the Class AAA playoffs, and we'll have that for you right here on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. When we come back from break, you've got to turn over your headset for just a little bit, if he's there yet. Is Mr. Damon there? Is Matt Damon there?
I'm going to run down and unplug him and then just come back and talk to you.
That's fine. That's fine. I mean, I've got to make the attempt.
Okay.
I mean, just don't trip him or anything like that. We need him for tonight. You can do whatever you want to after the game. Yeah.
All right, man.
All right, we'll talk to you soon. That's Woody Woodrum, and he'll be back with us later on. We're going to talk to Jason Toy when we come back from break. We have Matt Damon him so many times on this show. We don't mean to. When I mean we, I mean you, Gabriel, our producer. Gabriel, you failed to get him on all those times. I'm just gonna throw you under the bus. Yes, I'm doing it. I'm throwing you under the bus. When we come back from break, Jason Toy's going to join us. Hopefully, look, I've left the time open for him. It's on him now. We'll talk to him when we continue with this edition. We're here, presented by Beltone Hearing Aid Center on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
You're listening to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Presented by Beltone Hearing Aid Center on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. This is The Drive. I'm your host, Paul Swann, and we've got the big one coming up tonight right here, Huntington High and Cabell Midland. But if you don't want to listen to Chris Tatum and Woody Woodrum, you want to get the Cabell Midland side of things tonight. Well, we've got you covered on 97.9 The River. Jason Toy is going to have the other side of this game because, well, when these two teams meet, there are two sides, and they're quite distinct. One side wears that green and that yellow, that gold, and the other side wears that red. And Jason Toy has got his red on tonight. He's ready to go. And hey, welcome back officially to the program. It's been so long. I mean, I almost forgot what you look like.
I was gonna Matt Damon you.
Yeah, but nobody would have known it because I would have just made up some lame excuse why you couldn't be on the show.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
No, I will tell you though, Paul. One thing I will say: every time I come up to Huntington High, I love coming up here. Great people, Billy Seals, everybody's always fantastic. Every time I come up here, I freeze my butt off. Playoff game a couple of years ago. JV game earlier this year, a couple of weeks ago up here, froze my butt off. And then tonight, it's not any better. It's a little breezy up here. The rain has stopped, which is great. Midland, though, in the white tonight. They're wearing the white jerseys, white pants tonight. So
okay.
A little bit of a change-up.
Just change a little bit. Maybe you should confer with Chris Tatum, who does Huntington High games. He usually brings his own personal heater.
Actually, you know what? I tell you what, Jimmy Morgan and the rest of the crew up here, they do a great job of hosting. Everybody here with Huntington High does a great job. Press box great. They got new windows in here this year, which looks fantastic. We can see through them pretty clearly. They take care of us drink-wise, food-wise, everything else. So like I said, I always love coming up here. And, you got a rivalry on the field. You got a rivalry between the high schools. But you know what? We're all kind of one big family here in Cabell County. So it's everybody knows everybody, which is great. Most of these kids grew up with each other, too, as well. So it's time to have at it.
Big game tonight. Winner will advance and most likely take on Spring Valley next week. The loser will go home. As we joked around with Woody, and you were listening to it as well, this could be the Huntington High revenge tour with Cabell Midland, Spring Valley, and Capital lining up to be games the Highlanders could avenge, the only 3 losses. But they got to get through Cabell Midland first, and Cabell Midland had to fight really to get to this point. Slow start, but really came on late.
It's kind of the polar opposites when you look at things. Midland they came out 2-0, then they lost 4 of their next 3, 4 of their next 5, and then changed the offense, really kind of moved personnel around, and then things started picking up. And they went on to win 4 of their last 5 ball games, which was a great run. They're playing some good ball. The only loss early in there is coming to Capital. That was a 20-7 game. That was 7-0 throughout most of the game for Midland. And then you look at Huntington High. They lost 3 of their last 4. That one win that they had was in overtime against Parkersburg. So things kind of changed a little bit after that Capital loss, but they'll get them regrouped. Like what he was saying with Billy, they had a good week of practice here, and it's going to be, you don't have to worry about records now. It's 0-0. I mean, it's just that's how it is. And it doesn't matter when these two teams have good records, bad records, or whatever. It's a rival. It's a matchup. The only difference is you're not playing for a shield.
I think that is a terrible stipulation on that shield. It should be up anytime those two teams play. Playoffs or not. I'm sorry.
Well, what's funny is the last time we played in the playoffs on this one, what was it, 2014, right? And it was a game up here on a Saturday, if I remember correctly. Because if I'm not mistaken, Marshall played on a Friday night that week. And we had a nice, lots of sunshine, and it was cold then, too. So nothing much has changed.
Well, at least Marshall is not playing on a Friday, and at least the high schools get to play on the Friday, so that's the good thing there. And this is an important game because really Huntington High is if they lose, they're done. Cabell Midland loses, they're done. But this is really an important game because early on this season, a lot of people might have thought that one of these 3 teams, Huntington High, Spring Valley, Cabell Midland, could make the run to the championship. And for Cabell Midland to make that run, it begins tonight. And the same thing for Spring Valley. But the expectations were one of these 3 teams possibly could be the one that comes out of this mess because, let's face it, all 3 of these schools are on each other's schedule, and that makes it really tough.
Well, you look at it, too. It's a favorable bracket on this side. Doesn't matter if you're Huntington, Cabell Midland, or Spring Valley because, you're pretty much guaranteed the run here that you're not going to have to go far from home. That's a great thing. You don't have to do the 5-hour trips to play Musselman or Hedgesville or head up to Wheeling Park or anything else like that. It's a great layout for the southern part of the state. So Huntington High and Midland, 15 minutes apart from each other, going to play. Winner of this game will more than likely play Spring Valley. It's another 10 minutes down the road, 15 minutes down the road. Winner of that game could possibly face Capital, or they'll be hosting games, or if you're Spring Valley, you'll be hosting the way through. But still, not a long travel. So it's actually a very favorable bracket for Huntington, Cabell Midland, or Spring Valley.
What if the ultimate happens? Spring Mills beats Spring Valley. They've got to go all the way back home and then come right back down next week.
And then come back down.
Yep.
Yeah, and they might decide to do a Saturday next week.
Yeah, there you go.
Just because of that trip. But yeah, I was surprised. I was really surprised that they picked Friday night. It's a 5+ hour trip on a bus, actually 6 hours on a bus to come down, 6 hours going back. And when I saw it come out, I was like, okay, they're going to do a Saturday game. No, I was really surprised they did a Friday matchup. Hurricane, they're on the road at Martinsburg. Doesn't get easy for them.
Yeah, that's tough. I like the way the brackets are laid out, 1, 16, 2, 15, but the travel sometimes just doesn't make that system work all the way it should because, boy, there's a lot of travel in this state. You would think a state this size, there wouldn't be, but those panhandles just mess it up for everybody.
Yeah, Parker. Going to Parkersburg or Parkersburg South for a team like Midland or Huntington or Spring Valley is not too bad in the aspect that it's a less than 3 hour drive, 2.5 hour drive up. Wheeling Park, not that bad either. You're looking at 3.5 hour drive. But that drive to Martinsburg or Musselman or Hedgesville, you got to go 6-7 hours on a trip. I mean, there's no easy way to get there. I mean, if you go up through Morgantown 668 across, which you're almost guaranteed every time if you go across 68, you're going to hit a snowstorm. It doesn't matter. It could be summertime. You're going to hit a snowstorm on 68 going across the top up there. But you can go there or go up through Virginia. Regardless, it's still going to be 6 hours, 6-7 hour drive to get there. So, yeah, like I said, this side of the bracket, I think, favors all of us. I know Woody, for example, and everybody else, we were all excited about the fact that when this bracket came out that none of us have got to take those long road trips.
Well, the good news is nobody's taking a long road trip. The bad news is for one of these schools, it ends tonight, Huntington High or Cabell Midland. You'll have the call on 97.9 The River. Also, the video stream, of course. We're excited about that again. So we put our most photogenic broadcaster on the video stream tonight.
We have a face for radio, I can tell you that. So that's the one upside when we do our video broadcast. You never get to see our mugs on there, so that's actually a good thing when it comes to that.
Next year we're going to get you in a suit and tie and everything. We're going to make it look really good. So video stream tonight. You can go to our webpage. You can go to ours, WRVC.com. You can go to Facebook page for 97.9 The River. Also to the Facebook page for ESPN Radio, 94.1 FM and AM 930. So we've got you covered either way. And, of course, this is a game that if you want to listen to it, tune in the radio. You've got your choice. Or you could have two radios up. You can listen to Chris Tatum and Jason Toy at the same time to see which one you like better.
There you go. You can listen to one on the radio and watch the other one on the screen.
There you go. I think we properly promoted this game. Hopefully for everyone. And you could do the NASCAR method, what everybody does with MRN. They pop the screen up and turn the volume down and listen to it on the radio. I like that method. That's a good method. So you could do that. And if Huntington High loses, we'll have you back on next week. We'll put you in a primetime spot because it'll be Cabell Midland most likely against Spring Valley. And all I know is
if that happens, you won't have me. I can tell you that. You will have Adam Rogers next week. I'll be in Miami next week. I've got NASCAR racing next week. It's championship weekend.
Okay. All right. Excuse enough.
Yeah.
We'll hear from you here in a little bit. Again, 97.9 The River, also on the video stream. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for not Matt Damien me tonight.
Hey, you're worth it. You're worth every moment of it.
See you guys.
That's Jason Toy. We're going to depart here momentarily. I've been keeping an eye on the video stream. Marshall is right now trailing Kentucky in the second half of the semifinal in Conference USA Men's Soccer Tournament. They're losing 2-1. There's about 27 minutes left on the clock. Hopefully the Thundering Herd can come back, tie it, either send it to overtime or maybe get two more goals and make this game a winner for the Herd, whatever the case may be. That game's on ESPN+. We'll keep an eye on it for you as well. Coming up later on this evening, it's going to be Huntington High, Cabell Midland. You can listen to the game all over the radio, video stream as well. Spring Valley tonight as well on 92.7, 98.5 The Planet. All right, that's going to do it for this edition. We want to thank our producer tonight, Gabriel Sellards. I'm Paul Swann. I'll be back tomorrow for pregame coverage of Marshall and Charlotte, 11:30 bright and early. I'll be well caffeinated, ready to go. Promise you, Dave Walsh will be with me as well. That's going to do it for this edition. Again, presented by Beltone Hearing Aid Center on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. Have a great evening, everyone.
WRVC Huntington, W227BS Huntington, ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. Huntington Sports Station.